This is the full guide on ClickUp. I will walk you through all of my expertise and all of the things I've done for 50 plus companies and how, in my opinion, to structure the best possible board within the software. So I'll cover all functions, all boards, all dashboards, all lists, everything that is needed to create the best possible system in 2025. So this will definitely be a longer video, so just sit back, relax, and I rather just don't waste the time and kind of get straight into everything. So first and most important thing, in my opinion, is the pricing when it comes to ClickUp. Something I do have to mention, of course, when you're now watching this tutorial, start off with the free plan. Go into free plan, sign up for free by using the link below, or just search on ClickUp on the Google. Easiest, click on the link below, sign up for free, and then if you see a function during the video that you do think is important, and if you can't implement, depending on because you have a free plan, then feel free to upgrade later down the line. You don't have to start off with business, even though it's $90 a month or $12 a month, which is extremely cheap. I mean, that's basically free, in my opinion. So rather than doing that, just go into the first thing and actually do from a free plan and then kind of go from there. So start off with a free plan and then upgrade along the line if you think that anything is important. Now, to the actual system. In ClickUp, we're going to have home, inbox, chat, docs, dashboards, whiteboards, forms, clicks, pulse, goes. I mean, there's lots of things, as you can see. First off, is the home plan. There's nothing too special in here. We just have all the stuff which you have. So you have like a lot of these are examples like this. Everything is more or less examples in here. But this is kind of how a home can look. You can manage cards. I don't use the home a lot, being completely honest. I just don't use this because I don't think it's important, but that's besides the point. Inbox is, I do think, is a really good option to have. In here you'll get mentioned and you'll get tagged from your team and from your notifications. So I do recommend checking the inbox every single day. I do clear the inbox, but here you also say what also others in here you kind of see what's happening, the due dates and so on, without having. So in important will have you tagged, and in other will have you just general notifications. That should be good to know. Snoozed, cleared, and so on. Of course, you get the point. I have cleared here. You can see what is happening within the board here. So yeah, chat function I don't use a lot, even though it's definitely a thing you can use. It's basically like Slack, but within the ClickUp system. I don't really like this because I think there's easier ways of managing your kind of chats and kind of within your clients and your team, of course. So I will mention more on the chat function later. So just stay in touch, and I will show more why chat is kind of unnecessary, even though it's good for some things. Posts, follow-ups. I mean, you can do a lot of interesting stuff in here, but I will cover more on this later down the line, right? So we also have docs, self-explanatory. I've shown up dashboards, whiteboards, forms, clips. I will show more on this later. You can see you can add your clips, you can share screens, create clips. I mean, also not as important to know because there is Loom, being honest, and Loom is just easier by sending a link. But yeah, there is a function. I mean, you have everything in this. You have pulse, goals, timesheets, everything's important within the board. Goals, kind of see you can make goals relative. You can select set a goal, saying hey, create the best possible video on ClickUp. This section is kind of like, if you want to, then you can of course choose it. In my opinion, it's not as important. Who has access workspace? Is there a goal completed by end date by today? Description: do the best possible video. And you press OK, and you have a nice goal in here. Then targets and so on, but yeah, this also not as important. I will cover more on that later because there are better options than this. We have timesheets. We have more timesheets. It's just kind of your workload. I don't use this a lot, but yeah, you can see kind of hours per each person each week. You can also go back, kind of see I have logged 20 hours in here, which is not, of course, billable, non-billable, or capacity. This will also be more important later once we have set up the original system. So once the original system has been set up, we'll cover everything with the timesheets and time trackings and with approvals and so on. That's also new, but yeah. more forms clips you can kind of pin and unpin like this if you don't want the most of the stuff in here. That is kind of the basics that you don't really use in my opinion, besides the inbox and home. I don't really use either, being honest, and nobody else uses that either. So yeah, first thing, we have covered kind of the basics. Now there are more important stuff on how to actually create a good board in ClickUp. Press on create space. This will be empty for you, so you don't have any boards. In here, if you have a bigger enterprise client or bigger team, just write client name. That's besides point. One client name, and then write, let's say, HR team, or let's say sales team. If you want your whole business, then you can kind of just write word design, and that's fine. Description, also optional. I'm just going to say the best guide on ClickUp. You can also, which I'd recommend, uploading your own logo in here, or just pressing a finished thing if you want. So let's say I want Bitcoin for some reason, and I want to make it yellow. For fun, right? Continue. There is starter, there is marketing, there is project management, and there's ClickUp Dev, which is new, where you kind of can do more stuff, but that's besides the point. I always do starter mainly because I do build out the ClickUp systems exactly how I want them, and that's why I always use starter, because it's easier to kind of just start from zero without having to remove stuff and add stuff when you do marketing teams and when you do project management. The thing is, it's extremely effective, I can't lie, but the most important thing is that I do like just starting from zero, because you kind of start a drawing on your own and start customizing on your own as well. So default views, I do just leave everything as it is, and then I add stuff later down the line. ClickUp acts, I do just like having to check, is everything within the board, show more. Yeah, I don't need the rest, so that's perfect. Create space. Now we have the well-designed list. In here will be kind of, we have the homepage, which will be this one with an overview, lists, boards. Now it's completely empty because we haven't added anything. But yeah, we have a list. This list can either act as a CRM, task manager, or whatever you want. It's completely up to you. I'm going to show the best way, in my opinion, to structure things in ClickUp and why. A lot of people who I've worked with, they do have folders for each level. So they add folder, they write client name, and they put everything in folders, and then just have 25 different folders for each client, which I do think is quite unnecessary, because you don't need 30 or 40 client folders. It gets extremely messy, it's extremely inefficient, and overall, like, imagine you have a list of 500 folders. Like, the more clients you onboard, the more clients you will have. I mean, I have some clients who have 100, they will have 100 plus clients and folders. That just wouldn't work. Sure, if you have some sort of big creative work, if you have, let's say, 5 enterprise clients, then I do recommend having folders. But if you are above 15 or 20 clients or 10 clients, then I would use the list even further, right? So let's actually not use the client name folder. Let's just use a normal folder. In here we can group kind of each sector. So instead of having a space, so let's say you have a space for, this is sales, this is HR, this is maybe for CEOs or founders. Instead of having each space, because that's the problem, if you have each space for each kind of department, then you have to customize everything from the beginning again, and you just can't have an overview of everything within the actual company. Then you have like 3 different companies in one. So if you have a very, very big team enterprise, maybe that's recommended, but not really. I always have this one as a main, and then we just have well designed as the main place. Then if you want to segment things, then you can do sales, or you can do kind of, I'm going to say sales or HR team. Then you create a folder and create it like this instead, because it's just easier. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it open because I don't need a bunch of folders at the moment. I usually just have a list. In here, in this list, I will name it active clients. I do also like changing the logo to a person. It just looks more fun, and like a green one because they're active. Or if you want, you can just say clients. Completely up to you. In this case, we're going to put in a placeholder name. So I'm just going to say random. ClickUp is segmented for each and every single status. So in here we have to do, we have in progress, we have complete. This I always change immediately because I don't like this. I do want more depth in all of my clients. So first off, something I do like mentioning is this is going to be different if you have ClickUp as a CRM or as a task manager or as both, right? I always kind of do use ClickUp as a CRM system, and then I kind of add features so it works as a task manager instead. Do recommend that highly. So in this case, we're going to, instead of having the kind of common words like to do, in progress, complete, we're going to have, I do like having not started because I do think it's, or not started, and then onboarded, or in onboarding. I do like having like that yellow, and then we have in progress, then we have waiting. I do have, depending on each team, like this is highly customizable and highly depending on how each team actually works. I'm just going to give you a general practice on what's best for ClickUp in my opinion. If you have kind of a 1 to 10 size team, I do like having in progress. I do like having stuck, so done, or if in this case we can go back, we can have done, in progress, we can have stuck, which I do like having in active. So stuck as red, done, and then ended on, I do like saying bad terms, or churned in that case also works. So you can, if you want to change status, just press on this circle, press on edit, and you can just kind of do like this, and then kind of write churned. And I just like having this as a darker tone, like this. Completed, done, I like having like green color, and then this one will be complete, which also be a green color. This I always want to be kind of lighter, so if I want to have a green color in here, I do like having this kind of brighter than the complete color. Stuck, in progress, onboarded, not started. We can have more functions. You can, like, the things I do is like waiting for response from client, or waiting brief, or waiting instructions. Like that's kind of what I do. I don't think So this would be different stages. So if we put a random, we can have it in progress. So let's say actually write the client name. I'm going to say Amazon. Amazon has been or is currently in progress, right? I do like having this always smaller because I don't have a name that's 250 characters. Maybe that's just me. First thing that you assign is to the person, right? Who is going to take care of the task? Once you assign a person to a task, like myself, I do get notified in ClickUp. In this case, I don't have it because obviously I assign myself. If you assign a person, you can also notify them immediately by saying, hey, we have now assigned you to the ClickUp. So once you have a team of, let's say, 15 people, they can just press on, let's say we have two different, we have Amazon and we have Apple. If I now assign this to my teammates, and if I just press on, you can just press on filter, I will only see my own tasks. I don't have to worry about like 50 different filters because that's, I guess, unnecessary. So you can also assign comments or select all and so on, but yeah, I just used to have it. It kind of depends on how much clients you actually have currently and so on, but I just have it to see and have an overview if you're now the founder of ClickUp. So due dates. In my opinion, due dates are quite self-explanatory. They are nothing important, or they are extremely important, but obviously they explain themselves. There is a due date on this task. What is the due date? It's within next week. The thing is, if you have due dates, then it will be just like this in other. The thing and why I don't like this and why it's not in an important tab is just because you don't have the automation behind the actual thing. So number one, if you have a due date, now this will autosave because, One thing which is important when you have a due date is press on automate, press on manage automations, press on add automation, and press on due date, arrives. You comment, which I also, you can have different things. You can automate, or you can kind of comment, or send a webhook if you want to send it to Slack and so on. But yeah, I always just used, in my opinion, comment. I do tag the people, so assignees, get this done today. Instead of saying get this, you can actually just tag the task, get the task name done today. So if I press on create and I set the due date to today, it will then send me a notification within the board. Let's see if I can just update this and see if it pops up. I'm not sure, I don't think it does. If the due date is passed, maybe. No, but it should of course notify you once the thing is complete, and will notify you. Yeah, I got notified now. I get tied important. I can just press on OK. What is this? Get Amazon done today. Okay, I press on it. What's this? I will get up to task immediately. I do like this important automation because it does notify the actual person and it's get in an inbox instead of just having it buried in the other task. So you can of course also email them, you can send an SMS, you can send a Slack message, WhatsApp message. I mean, it kind of depends on what type of systems you have done, but later down the line we will also cover how to do that in other videos and how to actually connect like WhatsApp or how to connect SMS and so on. Twilio you have in here, but yeah, to connect actually like WhatsApp, if you want to connect Slack, then we can of course mention that in another video because that's a separate topic in itself. Key thing, assignee, who is going to take care of the task, due date, when it's going to the task, when it's due date of the task, and then we have priority. You either have urgent, the thing I don't like because you can't customize this, but that's besides the point. Nothing too important. We can put urgent, we can put high, we can put normal, and you can also just kind of, let's say you have multiple tasks, you can kind of say here, what is a priority? Is it urgent? You can sort by priority, normal, high, urgent. Extremely useful in this case. Now this is due date of course, but yeah, you can sort out by task state and kind of what priority is important, and like super important to mention here is you can always use the filter down below. So you can have a filter by okay, I want only tasks that have like comments, or only have due dates, or only have done, or only have location, or like you can choose whatever is important to you and to your team, and you can save that to always have that filter, so you don't have to kind of show everything for everybody. So you have two clients, you have due dates, and you have your priorities. Also quite self-explanatory. Now to the more important functions, there's auto functions in ClickUp. Bunch of AI fields, which I will do mention later down the line. Those will probably come last because they are kind of more complex. You have to kind of understand the core principles of ClickUp rather than kind of going into AI immediately. So first thing will be drop down. In here you can choose whatever you want. You can choose client name, you can choose platform they're on, communication choice. If there are when they got onboarded, I mean, you can choose anything you want. The thing I do like having drop-downs for is a communication platform. If it's mixed, I do like saying email or like Slack. I always change the colors because I do like having it more normal. So email, Slack, just to have an overview. So the way I structure things is usually like this: communication, and then I use the text field below. I mean, dropdown is completely customizable with any field you want. If you have platforms, if you have communication fields, if you have anything else that is important, like ad budgeting, I mean, you can add numbers in here, like a range from 1,000 to you get 1,000 to 2,000. Whatever you think is important, you can add into the dropdown. To the text also, like, you can write whatever you want. completely whatever you want. If that is phone numbers, if that's ad budgeting, if that's deal values, I mean, there are fields for that, so I wouldn't touch on like kind of, if there's a label for money, then you just use that, of course. The thing is, text field for is mainly just kind of give notes, or I mean, just if there's anything important about the topic, write it into text. In this case, I usually just have it by putting email, and then just writing email. Great, and you can just, this existing field. So either you can kind of add it as a custom field in here, or add existing fields, and you can just kind of press on what's important. In this case, we have the email, and then just add contact email, right? And then I can write my own email. Then we'll have it in here through the automation, or if you have kind of, instead of writing contact email, we can also just say kind of contact address. And then you can just kind of say Slack ID channel. Now I can't because I need an email, right? But yeah. You get the point. Extremely simple. Text, you can write whatever you want. I do like having notes instead, because I do think having notes, one, it's just easier to display, and it's also longer, because text is only one bar or one line, and notes is actually kind of longer. So I do prefer having notes. So client notes, so get or update this client today, or give him an update over the email today, right? So we can also do something like this. We can hide columns and still showcase them within here. So you don't have to have, let's say you have a bunch of information about the client and 500 different columns. I mean, you can kind of just delete those columns. You don't have to have all this. You can hide column, you can hide column, you can hide everything, more or less. Then you can kind of just go into here, and then you can still see all the columns that are important. So yeah, something to have in note. The thing I would do mention is once you hide the original ones, you can't see them. So the top, or the original columns, are due dates, it's assignee, and it's of course the priority. Those you kind of can't hide because they are native in ClickUp. So far so good. It's extremely simple to understand. We have text, drop downs, dates. Date, if you don't have, like, say you have like a next milestone, instead of having like, because some of my clients of course have a due date, and some also have a milestone. So let's say milestone is tomorrow, but the final due date is within a week, right? So it can depend. The date function can be whatever you want. It's also completely customizable in ClickUp. So yeah, you can choose whatever you want in the date function. Text area is the same as note, it's just longer. Like this one, you can see the difference. So if I now put text and you press note, you'll see that this will be shorter and this is longer. That's the difference between text. Numbers is for calculations and so on. I should like doing like this, number. And then you can add like deal values, you can add ad budgeting, you can add whatever number you want, depending on what type of business you have. In this case, let's say I want number as in number of employees instead. Who knows, right? I can just write 12. And here you just can't write text. That's the difference. You can only write numbers, but otherwise it kind of works the same. But the thing you have to remember, why you shouldn't write numbers into the text field, is because you can't calculate them later down the line, which is important to note, because you have columns like this, input, calculate, count values. You don't count one. You can't count actual kind of numbers like this. So if you want to have a lot of clients who have stuff, I do recommend having kind of numbers like this, because you can calculate and kind of do formulas with percent and kind of numerical and so on, average, range, min, max, median, and so on. So numbers are for numbers, also quite self-explanatory. Labels work the same way as drop downs. The only thing that is different between the actual two is that you can write communication. You can have both email and you can have Slack. So in drops you can only have one drop down, right? You can only choose one or the other. In communication or labels you can use both of them, and that kind of is the main difference between them. Sometimes they are good to have. Let's say you have like an ad platform, so it's a media buying agency, you have like ad platform, then you can, of course, maybe you can do ads on Meta and you do ads on Google. Then you will need both of them, right? So also something that do keep important, if you have multiple different fields, then use the labels column. Checkbox is something that is kind of unnecessary in my opinion, but can be used. Just saying, hey, done or updated, or have we done the daily, not sure, have we checked. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Let's say daily ad revenue. If the daily ad revenue has been checked, press on this and kind of just remove it each day. Not really a function that I use a lot, to be honest. It just kind of is there if it's important. Not a big thing. Money, you can have currencies. Of course, I often use dollars. I can just use D value or close value. This will be important later down the line, so I do recommend using this. And you can just write, let's say 12,000 and 1,000. You can still calculate this, I think, into like totals. So let's say you add another board saying Microsoft, let's say 2000, you should calculate both of them, right? Like this. So the thing why you shouldn't use numbers for deal values, because one, you have a dollar sign, that's one thing, and also later down the line for the dashboard phases. Website, super, if you want a website of the company, just write, in this case I just write website. I add that, or add an existing field called website, and then we can kind of just copy my own website. You can just copy this, of course, and you can kind of add that into ClickUp into here. Also something kind of self-explanatory, right? Formulas. Formulas is something that is quite important for the businesses, which I do totally understand. So let's say you have net profit. So let's say you have deal value and you have net profit. So if you want to have close value is invalid, right? Because if invalid, you can subtract. In this case, we don't have those numbers. But the thing we do have, if you have close value, I'm going to add another numbers field. And let's say software cost. Like this. I can remove some of our fields, as I don't need this. I can hide column, hide column, hide column, hide column. So software cost are, let's say, 1,550. Let's say you press one field, close value, and you subtract the software cost, and you get the net profit. You can do a bunch of stuff with the formulas. Obviously, I don't have to cover like dividing and subtracting and kind of adding. I think that's kind of quite yeah, you understand how formulas work. Of course, you just add the thing you want added or divided by or subtracted by, and then just kind of press calculate, and you always have this field. Also useful if you have something that you have to require for calculations for, something to keep in mind. These three are our AI fields. I won't touch on this at the moment. Files, I don't have to talk much about files because they are just files. So in this case, I'm just going to write files. I'm just going to add this, and you can either link a Google Drive, Google Doc, a box, a OneDrive, Dropbox, or just upload a file, and it will be inside of here. I can show you how it looks like. So I've just uploaded a file. It will be like a nice little picture in here. You can press on it, you can see the picture, download it, share it, link it. And if of course, you go into the client, you can also see the nice attachments in here. Quite useful in my opinion. I do like that. So files are quite self-explanatory because a lot of people do have files in Google Drives through their clients. So I do understand that that's quite important. We have a couple more columns which I will touch on. These four are all AI, not super important. Relationship tasks, something I should mention, maybe is a bit more complicated than the usual stuff. So let's say you write a relationship, and you have there are different type of relationships. I'm just going to say connected, whatever, and you can either select a list. So in this case, we have different clients. So if you have a task from another board or from another list, so I won't touch on that. If you have multiple lists in here, let's say clients and you have leads, then you can connect those to, let's say I'm connect reporting in here, create, and you can add a task from the reporting one, and we will have this connected. So if you press on this, and you will get into the day. So if you have different boards, let's say like this, or lists, like leads, or task, project. Hopefully you heard my stomach ache or stomach, because I am hungry. But yeah, if I add a task in here and saying, hey, get onboarded, or fix add copy, I can now just link this. Now I have connected another board though, which is important. So you can create new, you can set reporting, feeds, tasks. You can also create another one. But the main thing is now this is of course connected to the other board. So if I do change this from the actual related list reporting, I don't think I can change this now. So let's just connect relationships, task needed, and then we're going to select this and select the task project list. In here we can just select other task, and we can just select fix add copy, and then you can just have it like this. So if you have multiple different lists, let's say this will be your CRM and this will be the task needed, just press on it and we have the whole task in here. Extremely useful to have in my opinion. I do like this option because you can have let's say you have 50 different folders, which some people have, then you can have just a task link and just have your client, and you have all your stuff that needs to be done. Another list separates, so it doesn't really get interfaced or interfered. Now, people, so not every person is an SNE. It says it categorizes. I mean, if you have people that are not, let's say you have clients in here, if you want. Here you can add people that are not the actual the person is going to take care of the task. You can also have watchers, or you can have clients in here that also can maybe watch over the board. Yeah, you can add more people and invite them. So it's not going to, it's not the person taking care of the task, it's just the person checking it over, looking at it. Function, I don't use that a lot. I do just like having SNEs, but yeah. Progress, which is auto. Do I use this a lot? You can ask checklist or archive checklist. I don't use this, to be honest, because I don't think it's super important, because I think it's if I write progress, we can either have progress by manual or auto. In this case, I'm just going to write progress. And you can see if each step is done, then we can add the progress. So in this case, if you go back into clients, progress board, I mean, it's not really used. I don't really recommend having it either, because it's just useless. Because if you have a client, you know how much progress you have done on them, more or less, right? Not a field that I would recommend using, in my opinion, right? But I will still, of course, cover it. We have progress, we have email, phone. I don't even have to explain this. You can either add a phone or an email. Quite simple. Tasks. So same here. You can connect tasks with each other. The same with relationships. Location is also quite explanatory. We just have a location. If you have a Google Maps location, let's say you're working remote or you're working either with a person, you can have that company location within the ClickUp. So also like you can have kind of just write coordinates, or if you want to write the whole location, it's also just quite useful. Rating, emoji type, sure, if you kind of use hammers if you want. Number 5, rate. 3 out of 4, like something I do have noticed people use this about is kind of with candidate and scoring. So when you're having people, this can be useful, having amount of, like let's say instead of having, of course this, we can have experience and people can have stars, or let's say numbers, like they have 3 years of experience, or they are 5 extremely experienced, right? Also quite useful to have an easy view of what's happening and how much people have done for the candidate. So yeah, not super usable, but some people have like candidate sourcing, or if they're kind of rating other things, and this can be useful. Voting, basically never used this. You can kind of vote yes or no. Yes or no. Vote yes, not vote yes, vote. Like not really useful, maybe that's like my opinion, but I still will cover everything. Signatures I don't use. You can kind of just add your signature. Me, I can just add my signature if you want. Kind of useless also, I don't use this, being honest. Last thing, roll up, and the rest are just a t-shirt size. People know how much effort for going to use. Roll up, kind of same thing with kind of task dependencies. Nothing too kind of different, but yeah. Those are all the custom functions or kind of custom variables that are usable into ClickUp. Most of them I don't use, being honest, and I will now start and show you an example of if I press on list, I use templates, and I don't think I will have this. I don't, yeah. So there's a bunch of templates in here which you can use for your own good. If you want advertisements, if you want to use all hand meetings, whiteboards, board metrics. I mean, haven't used most of this, but if you want like apartment hunting, bill organizing, you can add whatever you want. It's completely up to you. I do have kind of some custom like this one, lead catcher, campaign launcher, and so on. Yeah, not as important, right? So if you don't want to change all the things yourself, I do have kind of system. I can kind of share this below if you want all the systems. So you can just create space, use template, press on the lead catcher template, use template. Maxim made me try this. Use template, and instead of having to do everything yourself, you have a finished template to use, which I do recommend using sometimes because it's a hassle, but to create everything yourself and so on. So in this case, I will share these 3 templates: Ops Masters for bigger teams, Campaign Launchers for launching campaigns, and yeah, you have a nice folder with the leads, and that is it with closed leads, lost leads, booked leads, contact leads. Extremely understandable with client name, company name, contact address, contact phone number, and budget for them, photos and summaries. This is me just playing around, to be honest. But yeah, to the point, this is how it can look like. I should remove this because they're empty. And yeah, you see how this works. It's extremely simple. You have priorities, lead source from where they're coming from, and so on. Due dates, client names, and AI summaries if this is important. That is kind of the list part of it. You can either have it like client names, or you can have it like a task manager, or whatever you want. It's completely up to you, being honest. Now, to the more of the actual stuff that makes a board good. Of course, we've covered the things. My number one first tip. First tip. I can't write. My number one tip for ClickUp boards. Keep it like listen. If I can find it back. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate the board. Don't add a bunch of fields you don't need. Make it easy for your team to understand. And overall, just don't make it more complicated than you have to be, right? So we have, first thing you do, you of course add the stages: client lost, closed, booked, contacted. Or we have, let's say, the campaign launcher system. We have completed, live monitoring, ready to launch, assets ready, brief complete, waiting on info. That is it. Don't add 50 different columns if you don't need to. Just have those that you need. That's my first tip. Second tip, use subtasks as for either relationship tasks or subtasks, completely up to you, as your advantage, right? So you have it like this, and let's say you have Chloe, press on, add a subtask, and say we have to get, let's say Chloe, we have to, she wanted, or let's say we have to send Chloe a plan, custom plan needed. Or if, let's say, if we have a booked meeting with David on tomorrow, let's say, for example, or that's not tomorrow, in 2 days, and we have a subtask, create a custom plan for David, plan before meeting. So, and this task is in onboarded, let's say. Of course, we don't have the same tasks in here. You can just add in progress, just for my sake. Right, the current task is in progress, and I'm going to have the due date instead of this for tomorrow, right? Use subtasks if you can. Keep it simple, of course. You can have like small stuff like this. You can, of course, do the same priority urgent because it's tomorrow. Use subtasks if you can, because you don't have to make it complicated. If not, then just do, like in my opinion, use relationship tasks, because it's just easier to kind of click through them like we did before, like this. It's just easier having to like click this and then seeing everything like this. That is different, because in this case we're going to have the same fields in here, which is a negative thing in my opinion, because we do have the same fields we have in the above one, right? Something to keep in check. So when you're creating ClickUp board, create different lists. Number 1, use priorities, use the due dates, and just write whatever information is important. Some examples I've done that are templates, you don't have to worry about the information. Like this one, just write whatever is important, and then that's it. Something I do have forgot about, which I do think is important, is the fields. If we just add a field, you can also like layout options and fields and so on, completely up to you. Fields, I'm not sure I can press on it. Something is happening. In this case, something I do have forgotten about, which I haven't mentioned. I don't think it's even in here. But yeah, something I do have forgotten about is the time tracking. Like this. There's there's more fields than I've thought about, right? But yeah, we have a bunch of different fields, as you can see here. We have status, date done, date updated, dependencies, comments, link tasks, some other stuff which is important, task ID. But yeah, time tracking. You press on play, it starts tracking. Extremely simple. Time estimates, you write how much it's estimated, 2 hours. I can also add time. I can add a note, 2 hours, notes worked on, add copy. Yesterday. Of course, yesterday for 1 hour, 1 minute. Or just press on play. You will get some nice reports using the time tracking feature, so I do recommend thinking about this. In this case, let me just kind of do one thing. So in this case, time tracking can be extremely useful, so I'm going to touch more on that later. So this would be the kind of your client work master. I know some people don't like working from lists. Some people do like having Gantt charts and so on for the other clients, and just board views like this. I just having like a list because it's easy to see, in my opinion. But yeah, This will be your main list. Add those fields that are necessary. Hide the most of the columns because you don't need stuff like this. You can just kind of go into here and kind of see it. You can still see it, right? Because if you add it, it kind of depends on what task. The thing you have to remember in ClickUp is if you have pre-completed fields, like this one, like created by, this won't be shown in here because they are pre-completed. The workaround is quite simple. You just write on the the workaround is quite simple. You just press on, let's say, last example was something like date. Instead of having that, just have date updated. Now in this case that won't work because that's updated. But yeah, people, let's say created, and just pick me, and I can still hide this, and we will still see it in here. That's the other way around. But yeah, to the point. The list will look something like this, quite simple, quite effective. You don't have to add a bunch of stuff. Hide the most of the stuff you can. Like budgeting, I don't have to have that. I think that will be shown either way, hopefully. Yeah, it does. So yeah, you get the point. Hide most of the stuff, just keep it simple, like this. Just have it, okay, maybe not that big, but yeah. Like this, have it client assignee, just have a due date, and that's all. Time tracking. You can kind of just hide the rest of the things. In my opinion, because I do like having it kind of quite simple to see. Like this. You go into client to see what needs to be done and see the information. Now, that is the list of ClickUp. More or less, there are some AI functions I will cover later down the line, but I think that's kind of the next step of ClickUp, of actually using AI agents. One thing I can mention quite quickly is kind of summaries. And this would be like an AI bot, just giving you summaries and everything. So summarize today's actions. I can either ask more, you can kind of reverse generate, and yeah, now it's generating, right? So it will kind of summarize today's actions on the task, if that's something important. If you have a lot of information within the fields, what do I need to do? Summarizing today's tasks. I don't think I have done anything today, that's why it shouldn't work. But yeah, I think I did have something, yeah, like this, summary. Client, contact, service, methods, budget, assignees. It's more compact if it's important. If not, then not, right? This task was evolved around, yeah. Can be useful. I don't use it a lot myself because if you have not that much information, you can go into and see yourself. But yeah. This is the easiest setup that is most effective in ClickUp, just having columns with clients, task relationships, and that's basically it. You don't have to need or much more than that. So yeah, that will be your main workboard. I think this looks kind of ugly at the moment. I do like having it something more clean, something like this probably. Like I have it here. I can usually just hide this, and then just have it like this. And yeah, like more simple. It looks cleaner. I know I do understand. I do destroy the template now, which is not good from my view. But yeah, hide as much as you can, and then just kind of read it. Of course, you can group by status. I never group it by anything else, like assignee if that's important. My opinion depends on what company, how many people you have, but yeah. You should just use due dates or statuses. The easiest way of seeing things. Also, more important stuff, and we'll go back to the original one. We will check on the more fun stuff. In this case, there are pre-created boards like Gantts, calendars. First thing I mention is the Gantt board. Everyone knows what the Gantt board is. In this case, nothing too special. It's a Gantt board. That's it. Yeah, you can do some other nice things, but I don't use this a lot in my opinion. Yes, we can add dates. We can add whatever. Leon, change it, add it. Like you can add whatever you want. and play around, but I don't use the Gantt chart a lot. Some people do like it, which I have noticed, but yeah, I just prefer having a list. Calendars. This can be quite useful to have, in my opinion. Like the client stretch out from Tuesday to Thursday. But yeah, in this case, you can also of course move it. It would move the due dates and so on. I think I just change everything right if that's the case. Yeah. You get the point. If I now change this, we change the due date probably from tomorrow. You get the point. Calendars, it's basically just a calendar you can add and search and customize however you want. Sync with calendar. You can add your Apple calendar, Google calendar, Outlook calendar. Useful, quite useful in my opinion. I do like syncing stuff just because it's easier to understand and kind of see within ClickUp. Kind of making ClickUp an all-in-one platform, right? That's the calendar. I think it's quite understandable. It's nothing too specific. It's a calendar. That's it. You can add tasks saying, hey, get this done today. It's simple as, in my opinion. It's nothing too special. Then we have, I don't think it will be, in the not started. Calendars, quite self-understandable. We have docs. You can just see your documents, tables, columns, ClickUp lists. It's document, right? Like everything else, like a Notion kind of, or like normal docs. It looks good, sure. You get the point. You can add pages and make it a lot bigger and so on. Quite useful. I do use this feature a lot, to be honest. I do use the documents. I have like sales trainings, I have outreach methods, and I have everything in this kind of dashboard. So yeah, this is quite useful. Forms, this is new. Not super new, but there are a bunch of things. I won't mention every single form because I think it will take me a long time. 1. Feedback form, you collect feedback. Project intakes, you collect intake of forms or project intakes. Order form, if you're capturing orders. Job applications, quite if you're hiring people. IT request, if you're now having prioritized IT services. Thing I use this for is mainly from project intakes and feedback, because when you're onboarding clients, one major thing, it doesn't really look that professional, which I don't like about, but besides that, Typeform looks much better, of course, than this, but it's still a CRM platform, which is the biggest thing. So let's say well-designed intake form, or let's say something like settings, client onboarding. You can add a nice cover to this. Wow, super pretty. You can add colors, settings. You can change questions. You can make everything you want. Color button to green, background to like blue, 2 columns, 1 column, hide branding. You can show reCAPTCHA, you can show submit, redirect URLs, assign persons to the task. So once this is submitted, it will submit and tag me, and then you can add a template to this. Yeah, you get the point in here. The thing I do want to mention about this form, besides that is only a form, is that the thing you can do in here is that you can, let me do something nice. You can of course customize the background and so on. But yeah, the thing I do should mention is once you're adding questions, you can add tasks from the actual board. So let's say you have something like in here. Did we have voting somewhere in here? Voting. Let's say voting. Vote. If they fill out this voting thing, it will automatically add that column to the pre-column in here. So in these columns, let's say you have Asani. Let's say that's something that's important. Now this is the preview. So let's say we add priority or due date for that case. Due date. If they now fill out the due date, it will automatically always add it to the list. So you don't have to do it double or kind of keep duplicating it. It will automatically add within the board. which is quite useful in my opinion. I do like that feature totally. So I do recommend having that. So you link the questions from the list to the intake form, and that will work across all forms. And you can of course change the name, so you don't have to have kind of vote. Now I did write vote, but yeah, if you have another question in here, so press on settings, we can say something completely differently, like when do you want this to be done? Rather something like that maybe would be better to have. But you get the point. Forms is a form. It's quite self-explanatory. Automation is quite good. Everything is automatically added to the ClickUp. You can auto-assign people and kind of do everything manually or automatically. Completely up to you. So you can either kind of look all the form intakes by yourself and keep adding them manually, or you can have it that everything is auto-filled in ClickUp. We have forms, we have tables. I mean, I don't have to walk you through everything. I think it's quite, I would just kind of pick the thing that isn't that important. We have timelines, show the timeline, we have tables, we have workload status. You can see kind of each hour per each person. This is also linked to time tracker, team status, team stuff, maps by address. Sure, I mean, why not? Mind maps. Look super cool. We have whiteboards where you can draw stuff. Hey, plan stuff. You can have activities. Okay, let's just remove all the things I don't use. I don't use this. I don't use the timeline, to be honest. I don't use the team. I don't use the workload. I don't use the map. I don't use the mind map. I don't use the whiteboard. Activity is one of the things I do like having in my board and all my boards, but I will not have the full board. I'll just use it in a dashboard. Then we have websites, Google Sheets, calendars, Google Docs, Google Maps, Figmas, YouTubes. You get the point. Now we have everything in private view, but yeah. Everything is quite simple to set up. You just press on a board or set up a dashboard or a view. So if you want activity, you just press on it. If you want whiteboard, you just press on it. You choose what you think is the best. In my opinion, I don't use any of it. The things I do use is press on dashboard, press on the things I do like. I like simple dashboards, like team reportings, like time trackings, like client portals, or project management systems. You'll get an AI project update in here. You'll get workload statuses, you'll get open tasks, you'll get open tasks by each person, filters and so on. You see now the AI start writing kind of what is happening within the board with the last 24 hours. There is a lot of stuff in ClickUp. I do know that, and I do understand that there is a lot of different functions to understand, but hopefully this makes things easier. That a lot of the stuff is not needed within ClickUp. You don't need all the stuff. You can kind of just cover it out, you don't ignore it. I will show you a board on the wall design templates on the most important tasks, in my opinion. We have intake forms. So like to summarize everything up, we have an intake form. Super simple to use, super important in my opinion. I do like having intake forms. We have lists of clients. We have dashboard. In this case, I have everything in here. Overview into the space of all the systems, clients, everything, workload status. You can see there's a lot. Boards. This has to be, I can't delete this sadly. Master board. Everything combined, and then we have to the real actual valuable stuff is like SEO dashboards for founders. You can add revenue, you can add MRR, you can add RRR, you can add a team coach kind of saying, hey, what's happening within the week, who has done what, kind of tagging each person, giving summaries. Company goals for the year. You can have a community report kind of saying how many of your employees are up to date or not have done anything. Workload-based persons. We have SEO calendars, calendars for yourself that are private. We have AI project management systems. Things you can move around whatever you want. You can move it like this, up, down, bigger, smaller. It's completely up to you how you want to customize this. As you can see, you can do whatever you want in whatever form you want. So it's completely up to you in that case. But yeah, you can move it, you can change it, you can add cards. But those are the more important stuff, which I think is important, is like team discussions in here. So you can just tag people, hey, get this done. Tag this, get notified about the task, extremely simple. you have team allocations, you have plan strategy, whiteboards, and team efficiency. That's kind of the most important stuff in my opinion. You don't need much else. If you have bigger teams, then I would recommend having a dashboard for yourself, for revenue, for kind of an overview of everything that's happening, your own calendar, and then having one for project management, one for only one, and one for kind of maybe some task or other fun stuff. So into the final bit of this kind of tutorial. I can have this tutorial about like 20 hours long if I want to. We can do a bunch of stuff with ClickUp, right? So to the point, in here we can have a dashboard. How to customize dashboards the best way? Like the most important stuff in ClickUp is one client's task management, which I've covered, and the three is the dashboards, like having an extremely good overview of everything that's happening within the company. Super important, right? So to customize this, we you can see comments added, task completed, worked on, total points, delete. Add card. There are a bunch of cards you can add. Extreme, like a lot of cards. Where I've noticed my music has stopped about 10 minutes ago. There is a bunch of cards you can add. Calculations, AI brains, task list, works. I mean, play around with it. I won't cover every single one because there are a lot. Play around, see what you think is effective, and kind of see what you think is most suited for you and for your needs in that case. And yeah, the last thing I want to touch on ClickUp is how to actually finalize everything. So let's say you have a board like this, you have a lot of clients, columns, lists. In this case, set up filters for your team. So let's say we have filter for each person or people or assignee is myself, or me mode also works, right? Because it's only me. It's the same thing basically. You can also add more stuff if you want. You can save as active filter. Active filter. Then you can add closed clause if you want that. I don't really use to have that, but yeah. Set up filters for your team so they can have only their own tasks. You don't have to kind of show everybody else's tasks. Now, you can pin views for them. You can autosave for me. Protect view you can also do, but the most important stuff if you want to kind of succeed with ClickUp now, if you want to have like revenue dashboards, use private view. Now this will be of course with private, you can't duplicate, but yeah, because that's the main list. If you have dashboards like in here, these are, you see with a lock, these are all private, so they have a private view. You can of course so unprivate them, and choose what people have access to each board, which is the easiest way of doing it. So not like, let's say you have a team of 5 people. Each day login, they can only see kind of the stuff that's important to them. They don't have to kind of mix with your stuff, don't have to mix with your calendars. They just have their own stuff to work on with private views and filters. So they go into here, I go into active clients, I have filter for myself. Only my tasks are in here, super easy to understand. Separate your work with your team's work, with your client's work, and everything in between, right? So make it easy for them to understand, make it easy for them to have an extremely good overview on the ClickUp system. And there's countless of other automations you can do in ClickUp. I mean, ClickUp is an extremely big platform you can do. I mean, I can say, as I said, I can have this tutorial in like 20 hours. I can talk day and night about ClickUp and stuff I've done in ClickUp. There is a lot to cover in here, in my opinion, of course. Just make it simple for a team. Kind of how to make the best possible board in ClickUp. Make it simple for a team. Separate the tasks and the actual stuff that each person needs to do. So only show what's important. So you can log in each day, see what do I need to do, and kind of have an extremely good overview of all the tasks. and that is it. Just make it simple. That's always my key takeaway. Make it easy to understand and make it simple, because that's the most important thing. So focus on that. Focus on making it simple, and just overall make it as good as possible. So yeah, that's kind of it for this tutorial. I will share templates, 3 of these templates we can use. Just press on lead catcher system, you click use template, and you will have this template in your system. Obviously, just don't try to make it space a bit too big. There are sometimes a bit too many in here. But yeah, lead catcher system, I think you have it like this. You have AI summaries, and super simple. I will share all 3 systems down below, so if you're interested, then just download them, use them, and if you ever need more help with your board, with like proper automations with Make, Zapier, and then of course just contact me, and I'll of course help you out. So yeah, bunch of stuff to cover. Hopefully this wasn't a bit too over brag, because there are a bunch of functions in ClickUp, and next video probably will mention something about AI functions and all the AI stuff in ClickUp, because I do think that's currently emerging and has recently become a big thing in ClickUp. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you need any help or if you have any questions, then just leave them below or email me at maxi@welldesign. So yeah, thank you for watching, and let me know.